That's not Geoff Hurst. How are we doing?
You're all right, then. You're a little bit.
Last time Freedom and I were here, I doubt there's anyone old enough to remember, it was the year dot, and we were here with Jimmy Greaves. Anyone there that night? No, shit, that's why nobody came back. Freedom was, yeah. My name's Terry Baker, this is Freedom and West today. We've been doing this, well, man and boy, not her, me, for a long, long time with Jimmy and Pele and Cantona and all sorts of people. Been doing the Chess Show for 10 years now. As you've probably seen, this is the last tour. In 2018, we started working with Eric Cantona, and we were doing this event, and it was a big charity. And suddenly on stage, he announces, tonight, this is such a good charity, I will give my fee to the charity. Got a big round of applause. Then he said, he will match it. And I was on 50 grand, I was on 700 quid. So it was a bit confusing for me, but it came up as a good idea. Since then, every theatre show, don't worry, I'm not doing all of these. We auctioned 4 or 5 things at the beginning of the second half. And since then, we've been able to give just over £2 million to charity in that time, including 60 grand last week. I'm not doing for applause, but just to tell you that that's what's going to happen. And all of the, I forgot about Jeff Walter, all of the fundraising, every single penny goes to charity. Last week it was, I've got a list on my phone, Macmillan, there were 3 children's hospices, Water Aid, an animal charity, one for supporting people that in, I can't remember what it's called, terminally ill people. So lots of those sort of things, that's what we've been doing. So the fundraising tonight is the raffle for the Lionel Messi signed photograph, tickets for free. There's Geoff's signed some balls tonight and some West Ham shirts. They're 149 and 199 respectively on our website. The VIPs had a deal this evening, and the few that are left will sell for £99 if anyone wants those. That's the end of that spiel. Beginning of the next spiel, if I've turned the mic on, will be another old man talking about his life. And he's a bit of a national treasure now, I would say, would you not, probably? He's 85 this year, and as I often say at the end, but I say at the beginning tonight, the people on this stage tonight are 155 years old, so it's the oldest touring show in the country. The trouble is, the one that's 85 looks 71, and the one that's 71 looks 85. That's it, Jeff's going to talk to you. Second half, you'll get a chance to ask some questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. Please give a great big Woodville Halls in Gravesend welcome to the one and only Sir Geoff Hurst.
I normally get a glass. I'm just kidding. Thank God you remembered anyway. Now, over the years, what I used to do, come on stage and just have no script at all, just waffle on and waffle on and waffle on. And what I was tending to do was go on too long. The thing about theatres, so they're pretty consistent on the timing, unlike sort of normal theatre, which can go on if they're not managed well. And so I used to get on and chat away for quite some time and override and go into the period when we do the auction and stopping the second half for 45 minutes. So what I've done over the last few years, I've just got a script together which just time-wise takes me just about the right time. Not like, can't think what I'm saying. I think these 2 things I will talk about later. Now, you might find it very strange for me to say, but being Pit Freeman was never really on my radar. I found it quite surprising after what's happened. But I was doing well at West Ham, and West Ham, the club, were doing well. And I think England managers probably look at the clubs that are doing well in the cups or the league to find out why that club is doing particularly well. And we were a cup and the Cup Winners' Cup. And even at that stage, it was never my thinking, well, maybe I've got a chance of playing for the national team. But strange enough, now I look back, as we do in our lives, start thinking that's how things were or are. And I probably argue very strongly, I should probably be picked for England maybe 2 to 3 years earlier, because I was top of the goal scoring charts with the great Jimmy Greaves. We'll get to him in a minute. Ron Davies was centre forward for Southampton, I think, if you remember. And so it's quite surprising. So it was quite a big shock to me in about December '65 when I had a letter from the FA, and that's what you used to get, saying I've been selected for the squad to play against West Germany in February, end of February '66. It's quite remarkable. I think, again, looking back, I'm now competing with those two very average players. Established average players at huge clubs, Jimmy Greaves from Spurs and Roger Hunt from Liverpool. I'm the new kid on the block. And I think initially Alf couldn't make his, there were only 3 strikers in the squad around that time, and I don't think Alf could make his mind up which of the 3 to play. That was the format, there were 2 front players, that was basically 4-4-2. Again, looking back, the best balance would have been me, because I'm more superior in the air than the other 2 midgets. So it looked like, but we played in Scandinavia and Poland for the World Cup. Jimmy got 4 against Norway, Roger got a couple of the goals. I didn't score in those friendly games in Scandinavia and Poland. And so Alf started off with those 2 very average players in the World Cup final. But funny enough, they're both smaller than me. I had a bit of a laugh with Roger once. I wound him up and said, Roger, have you ever scored any goals with your head? We sort of pissed him off a bit. But he got his own back. After the World Cup final, that night we had a few beers obviously. He came over to me and said, Geoff, he said, fantastic, congratulations, absolutely brilliant. He said, while you were up front grabbing all the glory, I was working back doing all your fucking defensive work. You do. Jimmy Greaves, we'll talk about Jimmy. I mean, described as a genius in the last year or so by people at Tottenham. Absolutely unbelievable, a real character. He did the stage shows as well. Didn't talk much about his career, he was just a comedian really. A very dry sense of humour. And got a couple of stories about Jimmy. So about the time of the Brazil World Cup, me, Banksy and Jimmy were asked to entertain the box holders at Wembley. It was a breakfast time meeting, strangely enough. We very cheaply, not what we were there for, the FA then wanted to interview the 3 of us, a serious interview, prior to what we were there for, to get some serious insight into how and why we were successful in the build-up to the World Cup and the World Cup itself. We're now sitting in the stand now, before the function. It was a breakfast time. Me, Banksy and Jimmy. Took about an hour and a quarter. Guy with the mic, guy with the camera. Question 7 or 8 was initially to me. Geoff, so what is the most important piece of half-time information you've received from Alf Ramsey during your time as an England player? And I said, for me, it's not something I specifically remember at half-time during the games, but when the Germans equalised at 90 minutes, we're now back off the pitch. Germans are there, we're over here sitting on the grass, waiting for Alf Ramsey to come on and talk about the last 30 minutes. Alf comes over, a couple of lads sitting down. First thing he said was, get up, don't let the Germans see you tired. He chatted to 1 or 2 players about their individual responsibilities for that last 30 minutes. Then he left us with a line we all remember as we went back on the pitch. He said, you beat the Germans once, go and beat them again. They asked Banksy the same question. I have no idea what Banksy said. We get to Jimmy. So Jimmy, what's the most important piece of half-time information you received under Alf Ramsey? And Jimmy's got this very laid-back, like, drawl. He said, well, he said, I played a couple of years where Alf took over. First game at Wembley, first half. We weren't doing that well, we weren't playing well at all. In fact, I think we were crap. We're now back in the dressing room, enjoying the orange juice, waiting for Alf to come in the dressing room door. Alf comes in, looks around at all the team, and the subs and everything, wandered round. Eventually focuses on me. He said, Jimmy, put your fag out. It was a serious interview. But before we get to do what we were there to do, we have a break. And we go into a small room, the old Wembley, where royalty goes. There's me, Banks and Jimmy. A guy called Jim Rosenthal was going to do the interview when we got on stage eventually. The FA staff were handing out bacon sarnies, teas and coffees. Also on the day, apart from us entertaining the fans there, the World Cup we were competing for in Brazil was also going to turn up. So after about 10 or 15 minutes us there with the sandwiches, these two guys came in from FIFA. And it's quite a small room. The lads are here, but they weren't much more than a couple of yards from me as they came in the door. So I politely engaged in conversation with the pair of them. How long are you staying in England? Well, about 3 days. Where are you going with the World Cup? We're going to all the countries that qualify for the World Cup. One of the guys had actually the World Cup trophy itself in a small cabinet. He was wearing white gloves. I said, I do understand when people hold a very important piece of memorabilia, they have to wear white gloves. But why are you wearing the white gloves all the time? He said, well, I've got to keep taking it out of the cabinet, putting it back, taking it out, putting it, it's a pain in the arse. So I'll keep the gloves on all the time. It's only a nuisance. He then said something interesting. He said the only players that can hold the World Cup trophy without wearing white gloves are the players of the teams that have actually won the World Cup. So up piped Jimmy. He said, well, he said, that poses a very important question. If he gets nicked, there's only our fucking fingerprints on it. Being recognised, or not, is part of life, as you probably expect. So a couple of stories about that. This is a current story. I live in Cheltenham now. As long as I've been anywhere, I've been all over the place, obviously, in the business and the sport. Been there 20 years. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was with my wife in John Lewis, a cup of coffee, as we do occasionally, late morning. But I had to importantly post a letter, and it's about a 100-yard walkway out of John Lewis down to the post office. So I come out, 5 or 10 yards. A guy tapped me on the shoulder, which is unusual, not coming straight on, but behind me. And I turned and faced him. He said, oh, sorry to come out, John Lewis. Can you sign something for me? And I said, yeah, of course. Of course, he wasn't prepared. He didn't have a book or a photograph or anything. He had a paper bag in his pocket, which he'd folded about 3,000 times. But I opened it up, it was about a foot square, and I signed it for him. He said, oh, thank you very much. Said, well, few more strides. Again, somebody tapped behind me, left elbow or shoulder. It was a woman. She said, oh, I saw you come out, John Lewis, and sign for that man. I recognise you. You're Glenn Hoddle, aren't you? And I said, yes. I normally correct people, politely. I said, yes. She said, oh, I saw you on television a couple of weeks ago, you were very good. I said, thank you very much. And that was it. I'm actually very flattered, because then I was 15 fucking years younger. Oh, the other one's an old story. Many, many, many years ago, I was in London doing something. The following morning, I was flying out from Heathrow to do something in Europe. I don't do much in Europe, but on this occasion, travelling out to Heathrow, I didn't have my car with me. We didn't get the tube out to Heathrow. Got in the back of the London black taxi cab for that 30-odd minute ride out to Heathrow. I got in the back of the cab and a large broadsheet newspaper with me. I lowered the newspaper, as you do, looked in the rearview mirror, and the cabbie wasn't on the rear view, it was diagonally across at me, and all I could see in the mirror was the cabbie's eyes. But I forgot about it, fully engrossed in the newspaper, but you know you have this feeling as human beings, you think somebody is staring at you. I lowered the newspaper, rearview mirror. This went on all the way to the airport. We're now in the tunnel at Heathrow. And the cabbie looks over his shoulder at me, he said, "Oi, oi mate, oi, give us a clue, give us a clue." I said, "My name's Geoff Hurst, I scored a hat-trick in the World Cup final." He said, "Don't be a prat, which terminal do you want?" I talk a lot about the players later on, but I'll pick one out. For obvious reasons. I played alongside Robert Frederick Chelsea Moore a bit. I knew him as Moro. Although he's similar age, I think he's about 8 months older than me, but he progressed through the West Ham Academy and the team and the national side before me years before. So I looked upon him almost as a senior player. How he acted, behaved, his leadership. His ability to read the game, but also people saw him off the field as being very immaculate. Funny enough, we did the meet and greet tonight, but a month ago we did a meet and greet, somebody on stage, and he said his sister, I think it was his sister, went to school with Bobby Moore in Barking in Essex. And she talked about him then as being immaculate, even as a schoolboy. And that's how people saw it. When we lined up to go out and pitch at West Ham, all lined up ready to go. Moore is at the front. Everything is ready, apart from hasn't got shorts on. Shorts are hanging up, nice and white as you'd expect, nice crease on them. You put them on, they go on the pitch for 90 minutes on a very muddy West Ham pitch. You come back in, the play just to say the shorts are just the same. Nice and white, nice crease. But opponents saw him that as well. We played at Man City once, in the days when we could go out there and win 5-1. Kidney's first game, in fact, that was. And you stayed over. Nowadays they come back after a game up north, but you stayed over, went to a bar, a pub, and had a few drinks with the opposition, which was quite an enjoyable kind of thing we used to do then. I went to the nightclub one night. I'm talking to Mike Summerby, one of their great players, and now an ambassador of the club. Moro was over by the bar, enjoying a pint. And Mike, we've got quite pally with Moro over those years. He said, "Look at Moro," he said. "Oh, so immaculate." He said, "He's the only player I know that irons his money." just how people saw it. Funny enough, many years later, we played, many years later, it was in the boardroom at West Ham, playing Man City at West Ham. And Mike was involved, and he was in the boardroom with me talking about Moro again. He said, "I played with Moro in a couple of charity games through in the summer, a few weeks ago." And he said, "Unbelievable." He said, "Moro," he said, "he's the only player I know, when he gets out of a bath, he's not wet." So just people saw it. Absolutely unbelievably immaculate. Memories. It's unbelievable thing, really. People's memories of the World Cup will never cease. I got out of the game, to cut a long story short. I managed Chelsea Football Club. You know that? That's manager. And then, to cut a very long story short, I got out and went into business. And stayed in the business for about 17 or 18 years. So when you're now involved in business, you're not going to games or doing punditry and all that sort of stuff. So you become, in many respects, invisible to an extent. So this has been going on for about 10 years. I'm very successful on the business side. Invisible. Went to a function in London, 300 or 400 people, round tables of 10s and 12. A chap sitting next to me quite faintly, excuse me, didn't recognise me. You can tell by the way he approached me, how he spoke to me. We chatted away, and a couple of players having a few drinks and started talking about, you know, their memories and got around the football and sport and stuff. The two lads across the table touched on where they were in 1966, as people do from time to time, remembering where they were. They was chatting away, and this guy overheard this conversation. He said to me, he said, "Tell me," he said, "in 1966, when that fourth goal went in, where were you? What were you doing?" Now these two fellas had a bit of an idea, that's why they brought it up. Had a bit of a pop at their mate. He's now in a serious hole, trying to dig himself out of it. He said, "Blimey," he said, "you must be Bobby Moore then." So I didn't start the competition, as you know. I sat on the bench for the first 3 games, and at the last of those 3 games, Jimmy Greaves damaged his shin against France. So somewhat fortuitously, I made my debut in '66 against those kind, lovable, friendly players from Argentina. Now, we had some great players in our side, but we also had some tough individuals as well. And we played it in what I call the medieval times, and it was a wee bit tougher. We had some tough boys. They would recall later that was probably the toughest, dirtiest, nastiest game they'd ever been involved in during their careers, that game against Argentina. And the most notorious of that team was the late Antonio Ratti. Now he's not dead. He just tackled that way. He got sent off later on. Early on, he caught Martin, my roommate. Early on, didn't injure him bad enough, but he caught him, whacked him. He caught Bawley. Bawley's 5'7", Ratty's about 6'2". He caught Bawley across the throat with his elbow early in that first half before he got sent off. And that's why Alan Ball spoke with a very high of his days. And Bawley went on, to, some of you know this, went on to the after dinner circuit and became a very successful after dinner speaker. One of the most passionate footballers I've ever met. And for the first few months of his speaking career, he actually stood on the chair to address me. He must have done it for a few months before. He used to introduce himself initially as your after-dinner squeaker. Now, many people think that this match was reviewed by pundits a few years ago, and a lot of them said that the fellow they felt was the best player on the pitch was Alan Ball, and I wouldn't disagree with that. He was absolutely fantastic. He ran Snellinger, their left back, to death in the game. It was absolutely unbelievable, and one of the most passionate players I've ever been alongside and against over those years. He really was unbelievable. Now, the second half is, as you understand, is a bit of a Q&A. And I will address one question before we get to the second half. Now, which question do you think that is?
Yes.
It's fucking well over. Correct. So I'll address that. I'll talk you through that. So the two people involved in the build-up to that goal were, funny enough, Nobby Stiles and Alan Ball. And I played with both of them under 23. I played about half a dozen games under 23 level and a few games with Bawley. And at West Ham, and that was under our great coach on Greenwood, we started, well, before that, in the medieval days, we used to have a fullback and a winger, the Matthews and the Finneys and so on. The objective for the winger was to beat the fullback and then cross the ball. What we started doing at West Ham, not just wingers, right side midfield, right fullbacks, both left and right, was before you got to the fullback, whipping the ball into that box in dangerous areas. Became very good at it, scored a lot of goals. At the international level. I'd spoken to Borley, we worked on it in training at age 23, so he was aware what was going to happen. Nobby hits the ball to Borley, it's in his path, so the goal's over here. Borley then, and I've said to him, don't pull it back on your other foot, you may not see me in your box, when you get wide, don't just whip it in. Borley hit a terrific cross, I made the run a little early, the ball came slightly behind me, I had to take a couple of touches to get it back on line, almost at my haunches, hit with a lot of power, and the ball bounced from my angle directly behind Tilkowski, the German keeper. So I had the worst view in the stadium, but I'm still standing up cheering. The Swiss referee Dietz, he then runs out to the Russian linesman, Bakhmarov. Neither spoke common language, so fuck knows what they were talking about. Bakhmarov gave the famous of course, we know by now it's Azerbaijani, it wasn't Russian. But as the ball came behind Tilkowski, Roger Hunt, my striking partner, Liverpool, as you'd expect, is following in, expecting to come with the bar on the post of the keeper. Roger sees it, turns away, shouts a goal, and that's been good enough for me for the past 58 years. And Roger Hunt's a very honest little bugger. But who gives a shit? He got the fourth anyway. I could talk about the players all night, so I'll pick a couple out. Nobby Stiles, or Norbert Stiles, as he was christened. Fantastic character, smashing lad. Before the game, we lined up not close to the touchline, in front of the Royal box and everybody. We lined up across the centre circle on the halfway line, so we're quite a distance away from the Royal box and where our friends and families were. The Germans are over here, we're over here. And on the pretext, you see this occasion where they're sort of limbering up, doing exercises, but also picking out their wives, or the loved ones, or both. And we knew most of the wives were just to the right of the Royal box. And Nobby had spotted Kay's dear wife, and it gave her a sneaky little wave. And to his consternation, she was waving back at the German captain. Similar build, thinning hair. He forgot to tell her we were wearing red. He said to her after the game, when did you realise we were wearing our famous red shirts? She said, when the German player Haller scored that first goal, I was the only person in my section standing up cheering. Big Jack, goodness me, what a character. Became well in football, as you know, as a coach with the Irish. Became a very good after dinner speaker, very, very busy, and a real character. And I think that he was picked for England probably quite late in his football career. I think he was pushing 30, which is quite unusual. And Jack being Jack, and interested in coaching then and now, in his first game, he inquires to Alf, why I'm absolutely thrilled to bits to be selected for England, but I want to know why you picked me this late in my career. I've had 700 games at least, 100 odd goals. And Alf Ramsey said, Jack, he said, I have this pattern of play, basically a 4-4-2, and I simply select players to fit in to that pattern. Then he said something which pissed Jack off a bit. He said, Jack, he said, I don't always pick the best players. But, I mean, Jack also not only played at 60-60, but also part of our, played a couple of games at 70 as well. I think one thing Jack always said, or was told by Alf, never to trust Moro, because he always used to play the ball out as he did. He was fantastic at it, and in case he had many mistakes, he was told to reform. Don't always expect it's going to be perfect, just expect the worst or a mistake. He never did, but he said, don't trust him. And that's how he was left with that sort of conversation amongst many. Over the years, before I get to the final, I've collected lots of sayings that players have made. TV, radio, newspapers and so on. Hundreds of them. But I'll share a few with you. I've had 14 bookings this season, 8 of which were my fault, but 7 of them were disputable. It's Paul Gascoigne. I'd like to play for an Italian club like Barcelona. A guy called Mark Draper. I never wanted to leave. I'm here for the rest of my life, and hopefully after that as well. Alan Shearer. This one is the best known. And this one, somebody in the audience will get it. Every audience has got it. I'm sure it'll be the same. I couldn't settle in Italy. It was like living in a foreign country. Very good. From the Rush in the frontier. Always get it. 2 or 3 more. I definitely want Brooklyn to be christened, but I don't know into what religion yet. Very good. Put it down that way. Couple more. Germany are a very difficult team to play. They have 11 internationals out there today. This is one for the Hammers fans. A guy called Steve Lomas. Remember him? Amazing, the Hammers fans are very bloody. The Isle of Man, bloody, Northern Scotland, there's 1 or 2. Oh, it's amazing. I don't know why they own up to being Hammers fans, for fuck's sake. Never mind. Unlucky against Chelsea, weren't we? Yeah. Well, first half, absolutely best they played for weeks and months. Fantastic. Second, not so good, but improvement. We're not out of it yet. We were about 3 or 4 weeks ago. One more. My parents have been there for me ever since I was about 7. David Beckham. Right, so get to the final. So we're hanging on, as you know, 3-2 minutes to go. The Germans do what we do in this country tactically. They had a big centre half called Willi Schultz from Hamburg. They stuck him up front for the dying moments of the game. Big, imposing centre half. Just knocking the ball into our penalty area from the right and the left in the last few minutes. What was to be the last cross that afternoon, strangely enough, was knocked in by Willi Schultz, who somehow had found himself not in the box but on the right wing. But it was a good cross. The ball's on about very dangerously, as you've seen it all, right around about the penalty spot. Who was there? Who read it ahead of anybody else? Was Moro. So what does Moro do? He chests the ball down. He chests the ball down in the middle of the box, seconds to go. Big Jack Charlton, his centre-back partner, hadn't seen this football before. I was heard to getting a bit nervous. At this juncture, he was heard to shout across to Moro, "Robert, will you please kick the ball out of the ground?" Or words to that effect. Moore, edge of the box, knocks a 10-yard puck in our defensive third of the field to Roger Hunt. Criminal. Roger's unmarked, knocks it back to Moro, which is still on the edge of our box. Big Jack's going absolute fucking bananas. Moore sees me running away in the halfway line. It's a wonderfully floated ball to me, not like an extra set you can't deal with as a striker. A wonderfully floated ball, you can chest it down, you can lay it off, you can let it run. As it came to me, it seemed to take ages to get to me. I looked back at Moro, immaculate as ever, knew the game was over, preparing himself to meet the Queen. His shorts up here, Moro style, as he did. And as the ball came to me, I'm facing goals behind me, I'm facing the ref 10 yards away, whistle in the mouth, waving, play on. So I knew at that juncture, the game was almost finished. I get inside the German, goals over here, I get inside the German half, then I heard a call, one of my teammates, on the right, and he went like this. And I said to myself, that call did disturb the German defence. But I said to myself, fuck you, Brawley, I'm on a hat-trick. And the ginger bit forgave me for a few minutes. I got to the edge of the box, people say, what were you thinking about? I thought, just as clear, the game was nearly finished. I'm now going to, a tough game, 2 hours. I'm now going to whack this ball with everything I've got on my left foot, thinking if it goes beyond the bar, into the crowd, all the sand, by the time the ball boy gets it to Tilkowski, by the time he knocks it down the park, surely to goodness, the game's got to be over. As you all know, I missed it and it flew in. And it was what's also fantastic is the, as you all know, the commentary. Great Kenneth Wilson's commentary, which we all know. There are people on the pitch, they think it's all over. Bang, it is now. And that middle bit, that commentary, they think it's all over, is now, as you all know, part of our everyday language in everything. Liz Truss and people like that. Sorry, to the point, but it's quite amazing, that commentary, astonishing really. I was in the Living Cheltenham about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I was in a small car wash, and he does 1 or 2 cars at a time. But there's a seating area behind glass, about 3 or 4 seats, where you can sit there. And in there, nothing else apart from an old newspaper. It's a Daily Telegraph, which is a big paper. And I had nothing else to do for 15, 20 minutes, so I glanced through it. And I got to the sports page at the end, and opened it up. And one of the games that was covered was a game between Liverpool and Man City, I think. Yes, Man City, not Liverpool too. But the headline, unbelievably, was that they think it's all over. And I've kept that because I just thought that was astonishing to see that 60 years later, still using a game of football. That's how unbelievable that commentary was from the great Kenneth Wilson. Anyway, you think it's all over, but it's not yet. You understand the middle half, the second half, it's a Q&A with the audience. Look forward to seeing you all. Are we going to give them any, have we got a new question or not? No?
Well, if we do, we'll check or fail. If we get wrong, we've never heard of the last one.
Okay, look forward to seeing you in the second half. Thank you. Sir Hurst, luck.
Okay, let's go. First paper. Hello. Again. Okay, so the bit I told you about at the beginning, we're going to do now quickly, just 4 or 5 items for auction. Anyone that buys something, could you go and pay freely, please, as you buy it, because we're not here at the end because of the advanced years of the long drive. We go away pretty quickly. Can I see the audience, please, Emma? I'm hoping you're there because I can't see you.
Yeah.
This is where we go. Okay, so what we're going to start with tonight. Okay, the two most successful players of the last wave. I should have asked first. Any West Ham fans in tonight?
Hey.
They're everywhere. I suppose we're relatively near here, are we? We compared to Stoke or Manchester, where there's a load as well. But anyway, let's start with West Ham. This is an auction for one or the other of these 2 items. That's the 1980 FA Cup winning side, signed by 10 of the team, and that's a Jared Bowen signed number 20 shirt. So the auction's for one or the other. Whoever wins it can choose which one they want, pay for it, take it away or leave it there and take it at the end. Normally we'd be holding it up, but we've not got the spare capacity to do it tonight. So 10 of the 1980 West Ham side, or a Jared Bowen shirt. I won't tell you what they cost retail. I'll just say, would someone pay £100 for one of those items, one or the other? You're only bidding on one. West Ham fans. Got a bit more light, Emma, if possible.
Special the FA Cup one.
That's why I need a bit more light because I can't see the man in West Ham colours down there. So it'll be 150 next bid. 150 somewhere.
Somebody did.
Must have.
Not going to get one? We would completely be giving it away at that price, but we'll do it because we give the money to charity, but normally they make considerably more than that. The £100 we're on, do I get 150 anyway? 150, thank you very much. 150 there. So it'll be 200 next bid. 200 in front, thanks. 200 in front. West Ham side by 10 of the team, or Bowen, you can choose either. Against you, sir. Done it. 150. Will you do 250? Two I've got. 250 anywhere. Do yourself a favour, don't scratch your head because I can see that. I'm blind as a bat, but when something goes like that, I see it straight away. 200 down here then. Once, twice. We've done. So, which one are you having? Bowie. So, take it out. If you could go and pay for it, but it's just that we get away quick at the end. Okay, what I was going to start with were the two top players of the previous generation. We have contracts with both of them. We've been working with Wayne really since he pretty much went to Manchester United. That's a signed United shirt, and we're also very friendly with Stephen Gerrard. He signs lots for us. And that is 2000. Any fans of either race before I do this? Anyway, that's a 2005 Champions League winner's shirt signed by Stephen. So Gerrard already, same thing, because we don't want to stand here doing all these items. Gerrard already signed shirt. We'll start a little bit higher for those. I shouldn't say it with these West Ham fans. But there are Man United fans everywhere I go, except in Manchester. So, 150 somewhere for one of those from anybody. 150 anywhere for Gerrard already. Yep, in the middle there, thank you very much. 150 there, so it'll be 2 for the next bid. 2 anywhere? 2 in front, thank you very much. 2 in front, 250 somewhere. They're both around 399 or 449 on the retail. So I'm on 200 here, 250 anywhere. 200 then. Once. Is that it? Twice? No, 250 here, thank you. 250 here, nearly. 250 here.
Someone nicked it.
Anyone want to do 3? 3 here, thank you very much. 3 here. We'll do 350. Just out of curiosity, what are you bidding on? Stephen, and what are you bidding on? Bloody marvellous, isn't it? So it's in then. 300 once, twice. So give him a round of applause, £300. Stephen. Same thing if you could go and pay 300 please. We're getting on to some of the big boys now. It's a Geoff West Ham shirt. We've been selling them on trade with there. I'll tell you what, we'll do Geoff because it is a Geoff Hurst night. That's the official shirt, the one that has 6 on the back because you can't get a 10, but it's signed on the front. Geoff Hurst, 4/2/1966, or 100th anniversary of West Ham. Signed Geoff Hurst 100 years. So that's in deluxe framing, as you can see, and that one's in standard. So the frames, that frame is £100 and that frame is £150 just without the shirts. So someone will probably get a bargain. Geoff Hurst, England or West Ham, 100 quid somewhere. Yeah? Yes, £100 at the back, thank you. 100 at the back, 150 somewhere. We've got phone bids here. It's not a phone bid, is it? She's like a bloody phone.
I thought it was there.
£100 at the back, be 150 next bid, 150 there, thank you. 150 there. It's an absolute bargain this is. You get it home and you'll be pleased you got it. 150 there, going to get 200 anywhere in the room. 200 there, so it's West Ham or England. 200 there. Do you want to do 250, sir? 250. 200 there. Once. Twice. No one coming in 250. Okay, sold the gentleman there £200. Oh, which one are you having? England. England.
Spurs sports.
What did he say? He's a Spurs fan, maybe. Okay, we're nearly done, I think. So I've got Ronaldo and Messi. Normally we do one of those, but just you could, if you don't believe me, you could get your phones out and go on icons.com. That is £3.5 grand, and we can't even get those. We're the only people that got those. He did a signing in 2022, 2,000 items. When you think he's on 568 grand a day now, we nearly paid him that for 2,000 items, but we're running out. So it's a Real Madrid, Ronaldo, or a Barcelona Messi. I'll just quickly throw it out there, one or the other, and I need an opening bid of £400, but it's genuine, that's £3 grand, and that's probably 1,250 on mine, but 400 if somebody wants one, or the other. No? Okay, we're going to do it then. The last thing then is going to be the 66 shirt signed by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 of the team. So Geoff, Martin, the goal scorers, Jack, who we've talked about a lot, George Cohen, Ray Wilson, Alan Ball, Banksy, Roger Hunt and Nobby Styles. So that was signed, well, we were agents for all of the 66 side except for Bobby Moore, who passed away when we were doing this. There are very few left now. As you know, Geoff is, like the tour says, the last man standing. So these are just impossible to get now. We have them. Again, it would have to be £400 opening bid if someone wants a 66 shirt signed by nearly all of the winning team. Usually they go 1,500, £2,000, but we will sell it. But I've got to get the bids up a little bit. I'm not getting any, am I? 400 anywhere as an opening bid. 400 there as an opening bid, thank you. I can't sell it for that, but and I like to sell them, but we get so much more sometimes for charity. But we've got 400 there. Someone will do 450. 450 anywhere. I'll tell you what, if I get over £600, I'll sell it. If not, we'll get Geoff back out and we'll get him on the show.
Yes, please.
So a bit at the back now, you're scratching your head. I do appreciate your bid, but we've got to make as much as we can for the charity. Does anyone want to do 6? We'll sell it if someone does. If not, we'll take it out and we'll finish. Okay, we'll finish. We'll get Geoffrey back out. Thank you very much to the people that paid. Give those people a round of applause. And I don't know if Geoffrey's ready yet, because that came up quicker than usual. Okay, I'll have a look. I don't know where he's hiding. Hiding in the shadows. Please welcome back Sir Geoff Hurst.
Thank you. I do prefer the audience. I can see much prefer this second part as well. As opposed to looking at dark and cavern, we can't see anybody. So I do prefer the second half of the Q&A, and the fact that I can see everybody.
Never fails to amaze us though. Even when we've got a full house, there's always empty seats at the front. We don't throw water or anything like that. Okay, so it's going to be a Q&A. I'll ask the first question just to kick you off and so you get the gist of it. We've been doing this 20 odd years, I think, something like that. In all that time, what's the daftest question that anyone's ever asked you? Other than this one.
I talked about the goal and Kennedy Wilson found was commentary. There are people on the pitch. And one of the questions I had a while back, was I aware there were people on the pitch? And I answered, I said, yeah. I said, I got to the edge of the box, just about to shoot. I put my foot on the ball. I turned round and said, fuck me, there are people on the pitch.
Ask a silly question. Right, who then? First one. You? No, you. Yeah, go on.
Who do you think is the best current day player?
Who do you think is the best current day player?
So Premiership player.
Oh, it's a very difficult question to answer. There's fantastic players around. But I would answer in one respect by a player who doesn't know how to play at the top level, who I would admire probably in front of everybody else. That would be De Bruyne of Man City. I think not only a fantastic player, not only, as you see by said, of how what a nice guy he is and how the fans really love him as a person, not just as a great footballer. But from a striking perspective, he's brilliant at creating, he scores goals as well, but creating chances from the middle of the park, and also wide positions, crossing balls. I'd pick him as a guy I'd love to have played with. In fact, I'd have been twice as successful had he been a good player at my time. I scored 700 goals. So I'd pick him out. Very difficult to. There's so many fantastic players.
Next one. Yeah. 60 years since we won it. What do you think our chances are this week? We get asked that every 4 years. What do you think?
I think as a person who's playing, but quite positive, as a fan on the Saints, I think we've always got a chance. I think it's going to be very difficult out there, particularly playing some of the matches in those countries with heat. I think it's a question like we found in when we played abroad in wherever we were, Mexico. Keeping hold of the ball. But if you lose the ball, you've got to spend 20 minutes trying to chase the ball back under a difficult climate. I think probably the thing I liked in more recent time, we had a great side, some tough players. We had a great team, a great team. We know there's some fantastic players, but nobody got carried away with their importance. And there were players at that time I felt considered would have been in the squad or maybe inside. I found out years later, in speaking to the senior players, that they would not be part of a team. They'd do something a little bit different as an individual. And then in those medieval days, which would be something silly, maybe turning up for lunch or dinner would go against you in those tough times. And I think what Tuchel has done, how he's handled, looking at from the outside, how he's handled Jude Bellingham, where he obviously was acting or being a bit big-headed, he was a great player, and he left him out for the game. And I think that, because what you do, and it's the same in any walk of life, any teamwork, if you give somebody too many liberties in a group of people, it pisses off the other people in the team or the side or the workplace. So I think that, to me, is a good sign. He's prepared to have a go at one of the most outstanding players we've got if he steps out of line in this particular. I don't know the total details. I like what he'd said and how he certainly left him out and didn't bring him straight back in. So I like that very much. So I think we've got a chance. We've got a good side. I think the English managers have generally been more successful than foreign managers. I'm generally leaning on the manager being English, as our nation is English, and you see a lot of other countries have the manager being a national manager of that. So I prefer that. And overall, you look at our record, the English managers have generally been far more successful, and been one or two very poor decisions, foreign managers, without going into any detail.
So, second favourites, are we going to win it?
I can't believe we're second favourites. That surprised me.
Spain are favourites.
I know, Spain obviously favourites. I was quite surprised when I saw the betting that we're second favourites. Really surprised. Although I still think we've got a chance. There we go.
Well, I never thought of this, but we're probably not second favourite in any country except England. That's probably how it works. Somebody else? Yeah, Anna.
Geoff, you played in 66 and 1970. Many people say the 70 squad was a better squad. Could have won 70 World Cup as well.
You played in 66, or probably know that 60 years coming up, and in 1970. A lot of people thought the 70 squad were better and were going to win it. Basically, I said, what happened? I think they all go wrong.
I think over those 7 or 8 years, we were the best team around, and team to beat, winning in 66. And in the squad in 70 did have 6 or 7 of the 66 squad. And the addition of 1 or 2 other top players, Franny Lee, Alan Mullery, good additions in key positions, and we were very close to winning it. And it's one of those days when, extra time, I think perhaps I would argue maybe Gordon Banks didn't play on the morning. Those of you know this, Banks would be the best keeper then and the best keeper now. He was absolutely fantastic, and he went down, as some of you know, at the morning of the game with this tummy bug, Montezuma's revenge, I think they jokingly call it. And Banksy, I must tell you, Banksy tells a story about this. So he wakes up in the morning of the game, not well. Obviously they don't want to lose him. Alf sent out the 2 coaches, Harold Shepperson and Les Cocker, to have a practice with Banksy, just to see how that morning, to see how he actually was. Banksy tells a story. He said the practice, Harold Shepperson and Les Cocker had a ball in their hands and they were rolling it at him while he was in goal to make it easy, so he could stop the net. That's how he described his practice session that morning. But of course he didn't play. Bringing any player in those key positions, keeper, centre-back, midfield, up front, in the morning of the game, it's always going to be a bit of an issue. Any one of those players, but Bobby Charlton and Bobby Moore was not playing, it's going to have an impact probably as leaders of great players. So I think, but you're right, I think arguably we were still the best team around. And Brazil beating us was a big boost to them, that great Brazilian side, they beat us 1-0. was a great boost to them to go on and win it, because that was obviously a great Brazilian side.
Do you think Moro getting arrested and put under house arrest had any effect on not getting any further?
No. I mean, I talked about Moro a lot earlier, and that's another fantastic question. Under house arrest for supposedly stealing a fucking bracelet. Was, if anybody in our side that would not do anything as really stupid as that, you pick Bobby Moore or Bobby Charlton, would never remotely think of doing anything. Absolutely bloody ridiculous. And to spend a week under house arrest and then coming out, I mean, you've got a bit of a story, coming out and playing like he did is another unbelievable asset to what Moro's character was like under that pressure. False arrest, stealing something, and coming out playing like nothing had happened.
Yeah, well, probably what helped him and cheered him up. Jimmy Greaves was doing the London to Mexico rally in a Ford Escort Mexico. I think there were 500 or 600 starters. He actually came third in the end, but he was driving through Guadalajara. Pure coincidence when Bobby Moore was under arrest. And they have 8 hours where they can't drive and 16 hours. I'm not going to do it. Kept me at maths on my back. 16 hours when they can't drive full on, so they had to brake. So Jim pulled up to the English prison. It wasn't the embassy, English embassy. Parked the escort at the side, climbed onto the roof, jumped over the wall, went wandering around in the grounds. Eventually saw Moro, tapped on the window, and Moro went like that. And as that happened, they pounced on Jimmy and said, "Well, how are you doing?" He said, "Well, you know, I'm Jimmy Greaves, I'm not playing this time. How do we come to? I just thought I'd come and have a cup of tea with my best mate." They said, "Well, you just can't do that." I said, "Why don't you go back the way you came, go around the front, tap on the door, and we'll decide whether you can come in or not." So he climbed back over the wall, got on the top of the car, got on the ground, walked round to the front, and it's not going to be half off when you open the door, but he tapped on the door, they said, "Yes." I said, "Well, you know what?" They said, "You asked us." He said, "I'm Jimmy Greaves, I've come to visit Bobby Moore. Just for a cup of tea, try and cheer him up a bit. Go on then." So Jimmy went in, had a cup of tea, a couple of biscuits, and a laugh at Moro, who was not in the most salubrious mood, as you can imagine, but Jim could always cheer him up. And they had a real laugh, and then the guy came in and said, 20 minutes, that's your time, off you go. So Jimmy left, and Bobby Moore was really pleased he went. But mind you, Jimmy did say, if Bobby hadn't given him that bracelet on the way out, he'd have been in real trouble. Next one. Jim, that is kind of a joke, and Jimmy did used to tell that story. Yeah, with West Ham's poor form at the moment, if you were in charge, what would you change? What do you think? Do you need to go down this?
Well, it's not great. I think we start at the end. It's not great. And we're talking about going down after 3 games. I mean, it's been absolutely shocking, really. I mean, some of the reports in those early games were from full-time reporters who described our performances as absolutely shocking. For me, the biggest issue is not renewing David Moyes' contract. I think from where and West Ham fans are partly responsible. That a huge percentage of them were not happy. We were you won a cup mid-table with the side we had, and what people don't also understand, looking at that team at that time, we had some good front players. You know who they are. Some good 1 or 2 good buys. If I look at the middle of the park and the back, I would often thought that some of the players in those positions were not Premiership players, but he still, with his method, kept us comfortably winning a cup, of course, and then comfortably placed in the middle of the park, in the middle of the table. So what I do, I think that started the rush, and we've had more people in play. The recruitment, I think, prior to David Moyes was very poor. Prior to him, he got most of them. They were buying players that were injured before they joined the club. Centre forward, Andy Carroll, Wiltshire from Arsenal. You knew and read in the paper they'd been injured at those clubs before they joined us. It's suicidal. Apart from 1 or 2 players who the right back from Man City was a good player, but he was too old. There was a couple of other players who I can only describe, excuse my terrible language, it's absolutely fucking arseholes. Not very good at the club, not very good at the club wouldn't want to get rid of. I'm not going to mention who they are. And so it was awful. So he gets it, brings it, sorts them out, wins a cup, steady up, need to improve the team, and they don't renew it. And I think that's that. It's going to take some time now, and we may have to take that time recuperating in the division below. We're not far, it's still not over. I mean, a month or so ago, you'd say we're dead and buried. It has slightly improved, and the first half the other day was very, very good. That's the best we have played. I mean, that's the best we have played in this season. The second half obviously wasn't good, and there's two goals against a good side. So, when you get this far down, you're going to have a reasonably good run, almost like a championship run, to get out of trouble. So it's going to be a tough season for the rest of it. No argument. It's difficult to know what to do. I think it can only be probably may have to go down to start all over again.
Or pray.
Yes. It's disappointing, of course, if you're a Hammers fan, as we all are, and you see. I mean, it's amazing. Third or fourth best supported club, 60,000 people. I mean, it's crazy. But that's football. Look at Man United. Look at Man U. They're doing a bit better now, but they've had some issues with the management and over the years. And David Moore is actually the first appointment under when Ferguson went, and you look at his record, it wasn't too bad at Man U. And how many people have tried to follow? It's impossible to follow Ferguson. 28 championships or something absolutely madness. Nobody is going to follow that in a million years.
Yeah, but they only gave him 9 months. We're doing a fair bit of work with Duncan Ferguson now, and he said the Everton fans are just delighted that West Ham got rid of Moyes because Everton don't have much of a side, but he will put them in the top half of the table by the end of the season.
How many times did we lose?
As he would have done with West Ham.
Yeah, well, the season they got rid of him, forever saying it, they couldn't be relegated at Christmas. It fell away, but they were safe at Christmas anyway. There we are, you have to next.
He had enough time.
Yeah.
He finished.
I'll come in the next. Any memories of George Best?
Yes, I have one. Bestie, of course, was an unbelievable player, to go to that question. And interestingly, because of his life, I mean, he finished almost at 27 years of age, with most players are at the peak of their career. I talked about the days when you went up at Manchester City and United, and you stayed overnight and went to a bar and a club, as we did. And I did that the same with Man U. One evening now, I found myself sitting at a table with just George Best and I, talking to each other, chatting away. But as the evening wore on, we were there for about half an hour. It was interesting talking to him, because I was a great admirer as well. So that was lovely. But every so often, a woman would go by. And then look quite closely at George, So I'm here in vain before you, George, that kind of. I laughed at it. I said, you get this all the time. He said, yes, unfortunately I do. Crazy. That's my memory of George Best. One of the truly greats, the player.
Except he didn't mean, unfortunately. And we did a show, Jimmy Greaves and George Best together, and we knew George really well. And he used to have a drink now and again, believe it or not. But he was a really nice guy. Just his famous story, you've all heard it probably. He went to the big casino in London. His girlfriend was Miss World, I forgot which one. Some people know, blonde girl, they all were when they made Miss World. He won £10,000. This is in 1967. It's like the equivalent for anyone under our age. It's probably £500,000 now, certainly 250. Got back to the Ritz, went up to the room, 4-poster bed, Miss World. He got his 10 grand out, and he sat on the bed, he threw it up in the air, 10 grand went all over the bed. He said, I'll have some champagne. And he called down to reception, and he said, can you send up 2 bottles of champagne, please, and some smoked salmon or whatever it was. And they did. And so Miss World has to get under the covers. There's a knock on the door. She has to get under the covers because she's scantily clad. There's 10 grand all over, and the door opens, and an Irish waiter comes in with a trolley with 2 bottles of champagne, some ice on it, and he sees who it is, and he saw Miss World, he saw the money, and he looked, and he said, oh goodness, tell me, Mr. Best, where did it all go wrong? That's another one that George says happened. Yes? What was special about Alf Ramsey?
Well, I think you look what he did at Ipswich to start with. You know, winning the league with Ipswich was in itself an unbelievable achievement. And I look at that side at that time. Not many of those sides you would recognise as an international player. The only one that I think could stick out possibly would be the centre forward, a guy called Ray Crawford. You think yes, he's the business. Not many of them, but to win it is astonishing. I think the discipline you could have that kind of discipline in our time. But I talked about he had a pattern of play. He got people out that didn't want to be part of it. I touched on that earlier, and that was important. And I think he just picked players. For me, the way he played at Ipswich with Crawford and Phillips, it was a 4-4-2, and I think picking me was, I would say, I was very similar in many respects, particularly to Ray Crawford or Ray Phillips as a front player. So I think that's what he did to an extent. He picked players that could fit in that pattern. I touched on that similar to the ones that he was successful at Ipswich, and the same pattern, basically a 4-4-2, almost the same. So I think the discipline was important. Kicking players out, I've touched on that didn't want to be part of that, were slightly misbehaving or whatever they were doing. And he was left over those 3 years of getting the team together, left with some great players. I mean, the backbone of the side is as good as anything we've ever seen. Banks, Moore, Charlton, and Greavy didn't play, but you could very find it hard to find a backbone in any level of any game better than those four at any level. Bobby Charlton, 750 games for Man U, 250 goals from midfield, 100 caps, 106 caps, 49 goals. Bobby Charlton, 1 in 2 at international level. Greavy, I talked about Greavy, the genius. Banksy, I've talked about Banksy, and Moro, I've talked about Moro. So he was left, but also he had, and I touched on this, very tough, disciplined, hard, really professional players. And Jack Charles, Ray Wilson, George Cohen, and Sam Borley, I've talked about Borley. Martin Peters, my clubmate at West Ham, underrated to an extent, was fantastic. Scored goals, we call him the Ghost, he scored a goal in the final. He was my roommate and the next door neighbour for 4 or 5 years, Martin. So I think the speciality was his discipline, getting people out, the pattern of play that was very consistent in the way he'd been successful at Ipswich.
My phone has only ever rung once when I'm on stage, and it was with George Best, funny enough, in Bournemouth. And it rang, it was impossible to ignore it. And I answered it, and it was Dennis Law. Biggest coincidence out. The reason I say that, I hope you didn't notice, because it's on silent, but I forgot the bloody watch tinkles these days, so it's just went off, it's just like went off in the corner. Somebody at the back there, yeah?
As you say, Sir Geoff, times have changed in comparison to what we quote medieval. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on female footballers and the lionesses.
Thoughts on the lionesses and female footballers?
I think the women's football was an absolute waste of time. Seriously. 20 years ago, I was involved in McDonald's, and they were encouraging people to do players. They were paying for people to choose the basic coaching badge. That was the theme of that around 2003, 2004, when I was involved, as was Pat Jennings as ambassadors. And one of the things that they instigated at that time was this, allowing people to go on their basic coaching. And what we did at Walthamstow on a cold December day, we took, amongst the things we did, we took 5 women players to go and did the coaching course there that morning, and did show them what the coaching course was like for these women journalists. We then came back inside over tea and coffee with the 5 women journalists, me and Pat, and chatting to them. 4 out of the 5 women said that when they were at school, they were barred for playing football. Astonishing, isn't it? Astonishing. And now we see today, you will know what they're doing. and the quality of the winning tournaments, and it is absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant, and there's no reason why at all why they shouldn't be playing. But it's absolutely crazy, the success they've had, and absolutely brilliant. So I'm absolutely delighted with it. But I just couple that story of when we were barred from playing, when they were 20 odd years ago,
And schoolgirls.
and schoolgirls.
Yeah. It's funny, just a word of caution. We've got some big London events coming up around the 60th anniversary. If you make that joke on stage, it'll be the front page of the FMA.
I might take a chance doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not adding any more to it, just for fun.
That's how the world is. Like, somebody over there, go on, I'll come to you in a minute.
Good evening.
Okay, with Elf or Ron Greenwood or any of the West Ham managers, did you ever fall out with them, or did you ever doubt what they were doing, dispute their tactics?
No.
Well, like that in those days, was it?
You would. I talked about upfront. You would not. Now I'm playing for England. You would not. Back to that theme I talked about earlier of saying something out of line, and to start having that kind of challenging conversation with Alf Ramsey, I think you're in trouble. That's the first thing. In terms of Ron Greenwood, he was. I touched on his absolutely brilliant coach. I talked about the near post cross things we did then. He was ahead of his time. And absolutely brilliant. And West Ham winning the cup and the Cup Winners' Cup with his coaching and the work we did. What used to happen in the early days before Ron Greenwood, at that time, a lot of clubs, including ourselves, had spikes. We had a sprinting day. We had the spikes along with the boots on the pegs, and you spend half an hour to an hour sprinting around the track at West Ham as part of the training. Within a week or two of Ron coming into the club, the spikes were out the window. He had this revolution idea to wear football boots while you were training. And some of the stuff we did, practicing, I talk about near pro cross because that's so noticeable. But a lot of the stuff we did, working with training, he was a bit soft in a way. He was good at coaching and stuff, but I don't think he necessarily was, I would say, a manager. He was a coach, a teacher. And there is a difference in the walks of life between a coach and an actual boss. Now, I know I was a boss. But what, of course, is no coincidence that the coaching that Ron did at West Ham incorporated 3 players, positions, to be very successful in the World Cup. So I would never have questioned. And in terms of Ron changed my life, my career in my life. I was playing cricket and football those days, which was madness. Cricket doesn't finish till September. The clubs are training from July, so I was playing cricket Essex seconds in 62, 63. I actually played one first-class game for Essex against Lancashire at Aigburth, and we won. I got 2 catches. I got 0 and 0 not out. So I come back playing cricket for the summer. I don't get back to West Ham until September. And I'm back in, not fit, miss all the pre-season. I was then a midfield player, playing in the reserves. I think I played at Crewe Alexander. On a Monday morning at West Ham, Ron Greenwood came over. I thought I was going to get a bit of a rocket because things were not going well. He said, "We're playing Liverpool tonight." I said, "Yes, I know." He said, I want to try you up front. Okay. So, struggling, midfield player, played me up front against Liverpool. We won 1-0. A guy called Tony Scott scored the only goal. I came off the park, obviously unfit, my shorts with my fat ass wringing wet. But from a standing start, in a new position, not fit, I played 27 games, this is around September, October time, and 14 goals. And from then the cricket was out the window, and of course that was 62-3, 3-4 we won the cup, and from there, so what he saw, I was very truthful. I scored goals. We played in the won a youth tournament in Amsterdam once, at under 17 level, and we won 2-0 and I scored both goals. So I was two-footed and I had to score goals from midfield. One thing he said to me, I talked to him years later about what he saw in me, and he said from midfield, he said, you like getting forward, but you didn't like getting back. But from standing start, he saw something in me, not just my ability with the feet, not how I was playing an Indian pitch. It's crazy, really, when you think about it. And so that's so I would never question Ron Greenwood at all for this obviously same reason. It changed my career at West Ham and England and life effectively.
So here we go. We're going to give it away.
Safe.
We can't spin it because the front row will get all
It's all on the floor.
Oh.
I'm not touching it.
Oh, but it works.
Whatever comes out on the floor, I think we've done enough. I think we've done enough.
There's not a hamster in there, is it? Go on, let's look.
Just one.
Yeah. No, get 6. They can argue about it. You don't want to read it out, do you?
No.
No.
I can't undo it.
Right, just a plain white ticket, not the one with the pink around the outside, just a plain white one.
Sorry.
Cuts half you out. Yeah, he's rubbish at picking these, isn't it? Number 48, 4-8. It's got to be in here somewhere.
Redraw.
No,
Oh,
you
48.
can't do a redraw because the
No.
48 will turn up. Are you there?
Hang
48?
on, hang on.
48 white
Looking,
ticket.
not sure.
Well, it's white and it says 48 on
Not
it.
84, it's 48.
Let's have a look.
There's no rush.
Where are you going through?
Well done.
That's the one. Give it a round of applause.
Well done. Well done.
Oh.
Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, he said, thank you for that big round of applause. Just very quickly, Geoff was saying, would you get 14 in 28 that first season, did you?
27 games, 14 goals.
Yeah.
And that 1 in 2 was there right throughout
Yeah,
my...
he carried on. Other than Jimmy, who scored just over 3 for every forward. He's the best forward of the 60s, and he scored 249, I think, 499, something like that.
1 in 2 over the years, yeah.
So it led him to go in to see Ron Greenwood, because you're talking about him, because he found out Bobby Moore was earning more money than him, and he was
In those
scoring more
days,
goals.
you had a summer wage and a winter wage. Some people know that in medieval days. You were paid more in the winter than you were, the summer wage went down.
So Geoff went in, he didn't like me telling this a bit too much, it was quite funny. He went in to see Ron Greenwood and he said, I've just been talking to Bobby, and he said he gets 20 quid a week in the summer and 20 quid a week in the winter. I'm only on 16 quid a week in the summer and 20 quid a week in winter. I want the rise to be the same as Bobby. And Ron Greenwood said, yeah, but he's a better player than you. So I said, not the fucking summer he's not. Tell me. Who was the greatest goalkeeper you played against?
Gordon Banks, Stoke City. And thanks for sort of touching and bringing up one of the most disappointing aspects of my fucking life. As some of you know, we played Stoke City, and Banksy was there, in the semi-final of the League Cup. And 2 legs. We went to Stoke, we won 2-1. I scored a penalty at Banksy up there. Now back up to the park in the second leg, losing 1-0, minutes to go. Harry Redknapp gets fouled in the box, we now have a penalty. If I score the penalty, we go through, we draw at home. And Banksy saved the fucking thing. So he's contributed to... but Banksy was, I tell you, great. But what Banksy was good, he talked about goalkeeping. And he said, and I scored the penalty up there, and he said, and he'd seen the games where I played, and I scored the penalty much the same. A good strong run up, and whacked it halfway between that right-hand side of the goal. And he'd seen up there I'd done it, and he saw me running up the same way, and he said, I'm almost certain that it's going to go there. So and he stuck his hand out, I didn't quite get it high enough, and it caught his wrist and went for a corner. So we drew 2-2 on those 2 legs. We then had 2 more replays. 2 more replays. Those 4 replays, Terry Conroy tells me, took a month. Astonishing. The second replay, we played at Man U, and Bobby Ferguson was injured, but Moore went in goal. We got beat, I think, 3-2 in the second leg. So that's the Stoke City story.
So what was the better save, the one against you or the Pele save?
Well, I joke with Banksy about that. He gets so much plaudit for that save against Pele. Absolutely brilliant, compared with the save against me. But I always used to take the piss out of Banksy, because it's not so much the quality of a goal or save that matters, it's what the result of the game is. They got fucking beat by Brazil. But against us, they beat us because he made the save. The more important save was against far more. We still got beat by Brazil, a great Brazilian side. But it was a fantastic save. I used to wind him up, of course, about that fairly regularly.
But the most famous save of all time, you all remember it. He went down, tipped up over the crossbar, and if you watch it again, Mullery comes up and taps him on the bum, and everyone thinks he said, "Fantastic, Banksy." What he actually said was, "Try and keep hold of it next time, Banksy." Somebody else. Yeah.
How much did it cost? How much did you get for winning the World Cup?
How much you get for winning the World Cup?
There was no bonuses in those days. There were gigantic bonuses today in all levels of football, including the national side. There was no talk of any money at all or bonuses whatsoever during the build-up and the game itself. It wasn't until after the tournament that the FA decided they were going to award £22,000 to the squad, the 22-man squad, for winning it. And it wouldn't be equally distributed, it would be more to the players that played than those that hadn't played. But within minutes, most of the senior players said, "We don't want that. It's 22 players, it's 22 grand, it's £1,000 each." So we got £1,000 each as an afterthought for winning the World Cup. Thanks for bringing up one of the most disappointing financial aspects.
It was different days. England won the World Cup. The Daily Express the next morning, which is the biggest selling newspaper then, had a political story on the cover, and in the top corner it said, "England win World Cup, see the back page." And the match report was on the back page, and that was it. What did you do the morning after you won the World Cup?
Yeah, that question a bit. I did what I did after every mainly the game on Saturday in the medieval days. On a Sunday morning, I went home and I cleaned my car and mowed the lawn. That's right.
Yeah, Messi did that when Argentina won it last year. A couple more. Yeah. Who's the toughest defender you came up against?
I wouldn't. It's a good question. I wouldn't pick anybody out particularly. Getting back to my story about the medieval times when it was a lot tougher. And in those days, the centre half, as you know, could tackle from behind. So you receive the ball as a front player, and the centre half would come behind you, break both your legs if you weren't quick enough. And that was allowed. Of course, that's now outlawed, which is quite right. So it tended to breed a centre half didn't have to be quite so mobile as they are today. They can't use that way of doing it. And most of the centre halves would be not that mobile, 6'6", with a bolt through the necks. So the ones who got names, Norman Hunter, Whitey Legs, Ronnie Harris, Chopper Harris, they're the ones. But really, most of those, that's the time we played in where the centre half could actually do that.
Norman was the softest, most gentle man you've ever met in your life.
He was.
Tell them about when you met Ron Yates in Liverpool a few years ago.
Oh yes, I bumped into Ron at a function many years later, and we got talking about the game, and I forgot what he said now.
He said,
"Remind me."
He said that you managed to stay intact through all the games you played.
Oh yes. He said, he saw me, and I walked across to him, I looked okay. He said, "Oh, are you?" He said, "You're still walking okay." I said, "Oh, fucking thanks to you, man."
Or a number of others, Chopper, Tommy Smith. Remember Tommy Smith?
Yeah.
Jimmy said, the Saint used to say that he kept a picture of Tommy Smith on his mantelpiece to keep the kids away from the fire. Okay, where are we? Yeah, down there. There's a few tonight. Do you come across many people? Yeah, actually, we do come across 300,000 so far since we've been doing this show.
Serious answer, yes, we do. Most shows, people that will have been at the game, yeah. There's always a handful of people who are actually at the game in most of the shows, as you are tonight. Yeah. Absolutely.
One more. Your West Ham shirt. When you came back to West Ham after they summarily dismissed you and thrown you out to Stoke, well, that wasn't how you put it, was it? And you came back, you scored against West Ham after 15 minutes for Stoke. What did it feel like?
It felt seriously fantastic because, no, seriously, because I was disappointed in the way that West Ham wanted me to go. I was still fit, as I proved at Stoke. I played 100 odd games at Stoke, scored 35 goals. But the way it was handled in those days when the clubs had the power, just wanted to move me on, get 80 grand from me. And what I did have an agent, as Moro did, and when it happened with him, when he went to Fulham, he wouldn't get out. The agent said to Moro, don't get out your seat out in the park till they give you some money for the service you got. It's not, I'm not even bitter about it, but scoring the goal against the Hammers virtually kicked me out. I was once refused entry at West Ham. Remember BAC, their sponsors, years ago, the double glazing company in Moffat? When they became sponsors, I was involved more with the sponsors than actually the club itself. And I came down in the helicopter in the ground when they launched their association with the Hammers. But after a few weeks, we played on a Monday night at Upper Park. I had to go on the pitch earlier to do an interview for one of the TV programmes. So I got there quite early. I went to the front entrance. The official doorman opened the door. I said, I'll just come to just do a piece for the BBC or whatever. And he said, looked at me blankly, but he turned around behind him, and 10 yards behind him was the commercial manager, director of the club. And he went, so he wouldn't let me in. A commercial manager. I got in eventually, it became a bit embarrassing because I was more involved with the sponsors than the club itself. But he said, no, you can't come in. When he left the club or got sacked, he wanted me to give him a reference.
That goes for him. Okay, so last question I'm going to ask you. So we've talked a lot about the 66 side and whether England will win the World Cup this time. If the 66 team played against what's likely to be the side in the World Cup coming up, what do you think the score would be?
That's a good question. I think obviously what we did is more superior to what's happened today, but with today's medication and training and fitness regime, it would be, I'd imagine, quite close. In fact, I'd settle for a 1-1 draw. But you have to remember, 10 of us are dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed yourselves tonight. Sir Geoff Hurst.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
So that's it. A bit of a national treasure. Never swears. He never did. It's funny. Jimmy Greaves used to swear like a trooper on the stage, and he never swore off it. Geoff usually doesn't swear much on the stage, and something happened tonight, and he'll probably be pissed off in the dressing room or something. Harry Redknapp swears like a trooper off the stage, and he never swears on it. There's nothing to do with anything. I just thought I'd tell you that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it tonight. Thanks for coming. We've appreciated you coming. Good night. Thank you.